Good afternoon. My name's Charlie Baum, and today we're going to be talking about monopolistically competitive markets. What I want to start out with is a discussion of how a monopolistically competitive firm maximizes profits. The profit maximization rule for a monopolistically competitive firm is going to produce that quantity of output where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Intuitively, the monopolistically competitive firm is going to produce all of the units that are profitable that have a marginal revenue that's greater than their marginal cost. The firm should stop producing before it produces any unprofitable units. This means stopping production before any units are produced that have a marginal cost that's greater than their marginal revenue. We're going to see this in a table first. For example, let's suppose that the first two columns in this table give us the monopolistically competitive firm's demand structure. You'll see that when the monopolistically competitive firm lowers the price, more units of output are demanded. So we can get total revenue by multiplying quantity times price. For example, if we're selling 1 unit of output at a price of $5.50, then total revenue is $5.50. To sell a second unit of output, we have to lower the price to $5 to get consumers to demand that second unit, and this will generate total revenue of $10. That's from $5 multiplied by 2 units of output. If we want to sell 3 units of output, we'll have to lower the price from $5 to $4.50. Total revenue will now be $13.50. We calculate this from multiplying 3 units of output by a price of $4.50. Let me do one more example. For example, 7 units of output multiplied by $2.25 generates total revenue of $17.50. The marginal revenue column ends up being very important. Here's how we calculate marginal revenue. We calculate marginal revenue by examining how total revenue changes with each unit of output. When you're not selling any output, your total revenue is 0. Then when you sell 1 unit of output, total revenue goes up to $5.50. It goes up by $5.50, and so that's marginal revenue for this first unit. If we sell a second unit of output, total revenue will go up by $4.50. So that's the marginal revenue of the second unit. I'm getting these marginal revenues by subtracting total revenue on consecutive rows. For example, $13.50 minus $10 is $3.50. That's the marginal revenue of the third unit. This marginal revenue column shows us how marginal revenue changes with each additional unit that we produce. It shows us the additional revenue that each unit brings into the firm. Now let's look at the cost side of the firm, and the table is giving us information on the total cost of producing each unit of output. Marginal cost is calculated from total cost, the same way marginal revenue is calculated from total revenue. The total cost of producing 1 unit is $8. The total cost of producing 2 units is $9.50. So total cost goes up by $1.50 when we produce the second unit of output. So the marginal cost of the second unit is $1.50. I'm calculating these marginal costs by subtracting total costs between consecutive rows. For example, for the third unit of output, total cost of $10 minus total cost of $9.50 is 50 cents. That's the marginal cost of the third unit. The fourth unit's marginal cost is $1 from 11 minus 10. What the monopolistically competitive firm should do is it should produce all those units that have a marginal revenue that's greater than their marginal cost. These units are profitable. It's because they generate more revenue than their cost. But the firm should stop producing before it produces any units that would have a marginal cost that is greater than their marginal revenue. In fact, the firm should produce the specific quantity where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, and that's on the sixth row of the table for 5 units of output. You can see on this row profit is equal to $5, and in this profit column that is where profits are the largest. Okay, I want to show you this in a graph next. In this graph, for a monopolistically competitive firm, you see the firm's marginal cost curve, the demand curve it faces, and the corresponding marginal revenue curve. The monopolistically competitive firm will maximize profits by producing the quantity where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. This is the quantity where the marginal cost curve intersects the marginal revenue curve. The monopolistically competitive firm determines the profit maximizing price to charge by going up to the demand curve for the profit maximizing quantity. This will indicate the price at which consumers will demand the profit maximizing quantity. Let me briefly indicate why it's not optimal to produce a lower quantity. If the firm stopped production at a lower quantity, like 3 units of output, then it would be passing up the opportunity to produce profitable units of output. It would be passing up the opportunity to produce units of output that have a marginal revenue that's greater than their marginal cost. It would also not be profitable to produce too many units of output. For example, if the firm were to produce 7 units of output, then it would be reducing its profit by producing unprofitable units. That's because units beyond 5 have a marginal cost, indicated by the height of the marginal cost curve, that is greater than the revenue they bring into the firm, represented by the height of the marginal revenue curve. Next, let's look at profits. I'll show you a second graph with an average total cost curve drawn. Here's how you calculate profits. You identify the average total cost of producing the profit maximizing quantity. The profit margin is the difference in the profit maximizing price and the average total cost of production. That profit margin is earned on all of the units that are produced and sold. If you multiply that profit margin by the number of units sold, you get a number that's equal to the area of the green box. You'll notice the green box has a length equal to the number of units sold, which is 5, and it's got a height equal to the profit margin. The profit margin, again, is the difference in price and the average total cost of production. So to summarize this again, the firm will first identify the profit maximizing quantity by finding where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. The firm will identify the profit maximizing price by going up to the demand curve and identifying the price at which consumers demand the profit maximizing quantity. The firm can identify its profits by finding the average total cost of producing the profit maximizing quantity. This comes from the firm's average total cost curve. And then profits will equal the units of output multiplied by the profit margin, which is price minus marginal cost.